Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about marginals. What's a marginal? Well, in the most literal sense, a marginal is one more thing. So let's think of you're going to the grocery store, for instance, and you pick up an apple, and you grab that apple, and then you think to yourself, well, let me go get another apple. This second apple is your marginal apple, so your next apple. And as soon as you grab that apple and put it in your basket, the marginal apple now becomes the third apple, which you do not have in your basket. So the marginal is essentially the next thing, the next option that you don't quite have yet. And a good way to think about marginals is with opportunity cost. What is the opportunity cost of me going to grab that next option? And that usually helps you determine what your marginal benefit is. So let's take a look at Jared over here. Now Jared, he's studying for his economics final. He did not choose to make the video, rather he chose the big 100 question test. So Jared's working away doing his thing. Now, here we've got this little graph of the marginal benefit of Jared studying versus the marginal cost of Jared studying. So let's take a little look at this. If we see that Jared studies for a half hour, then he's going to get a marginal benefit of about 18 points. So he's going to get an additional 18 points on his econ test that he wouldn't otherwise have gotten if he didn't study. Now, if we go to the next point, we can see if Jared studies for an hour and a half, he can get an additional 14 points on top of that 18 that he already has. So then he's got 32 points after studying for that hour and a half that he wouldn't otherwise have if he didn't put this time in studying. And you can see that this goes on and on and on. But as he spends more time studying for his economics test, he's going to have diminishing returns. So by the 4.5 hours, he's only going to get about 2 extra points on his econ test, because Jared pretty much knows everything there is about economics, and so there's not much more he can do to improve his score. Now, if we look at the marginal cost curve, we can kind of see that we can see the cost that this has on Jared's social life. Now, if Jared spends, let's say, an hour and a half studying, it's going to have a minor impact on his social life, almost negligible. But as he spends more and more time studying, it's going to have a bigger effect on his social life. So let's say he spends 3.5 hours studying. Well, what could be the next best option? Going to the movies, of course. And so if Jared would otherwise go to the movies, we can see that after 3.5 hours he has a pretty substantial cost. And eventually, after 4.5 hours, yeah, sure, he can get that really good econ score, but it's not really worth it because the cost is so high. He forgot so many movies that he's now a social outcast, his life's in ruins, and basically he has no friends anymore. So what Jared needs to do is he needs to look at, is it worth it for me to study for that long? And if we can see here, when we put the marginal benefit curve and the marginal cost curve together on the same graph, and we see where they meet, we can find the point where there's the optimum situation. It tells us how long Jared should study so that he is neither a complete failure on his test nor a social outcast. So in this instance, Jared should spend 3 hours studying for his economics test, where his marginal benefit for studying for 3 hours is equal to his marginal cost for studying for 3 hours. Because if he were to go over here, he'd be a social outcast, and the marginal cost would outweigh the benefit. But if we were to go over here, he wouldn't be reaping the maximum benefit for his time. He wouldn't be optimizing his time, and therefore the opportunity cost wouldn't warrant him going to the movies quite yet. So, hopefully that helps you give you a little bit of an understanding on what a marginal is and how to use it in order to optimize different aspects of the real world.